if we continue to blame the West and ignore African responsibility, nothing will change. Africans hurt themselves. So why do we keep blaming the West? In the last few episodes, we've heard from John Perkins, the economic hitman whose job was to push overpriced projects and tie countries into debts that guaranteed compliance with American priorities. But this is the uncomfortable truth. Africa's debt crisis wasn't cooked up in Washington or Paris alone. It took willing hands at home to sign the papers, take the loans, and squander the money. Some of those hands belonged to the giants of post-independence Africa, men who draped themselves in nationalist flags but quietly built fortunes offshore while their people scraped by. Greetings and welcome again. My name is Dr. Christy Agawu. If this is your first time joining us, thank you. You've come to the right place for hard truths about aid, debt, and development. To all our returning listeners, thank you for staying with me. Please subscribe, like, and share. It helps to push these stories to those who need to hear them. Today, we begin a two-part journey under the banner The Loaded Continent. In part one, we expose Africa's old guard, leaders who once wrapped themselves in the language of independence and progress, but who instead decimated the very people they were meant to serve. Their pattern was clear. Reckless loans, prestige projects, debts for patronage, and deals struck hand in hand with foreign lenders. These officials were not victims. They were collaborators and often engineers of theft of an industrial scale. Now, some might ask, isn't this ancient history? Why go back to the Mobutus and the Abachas of the past? But here's why it matters. The debts they left behind didn't die with them. They still haunt national budgets today. And more than that, their playbook set a template, one that younger politicians continue to copy. To understand today's scandals, you have to see where the model was born. So let's start where the story is most unbelievable. Take Zaire under Mobutu Sese Seko. For 3 decades, he ruled like a king. The leopard skin hat, the Concorde flights to Paris, and one of the world's most extravagant presidential compounds in Badolite. By the 1990s, estimates put his personal fortune between $4 to $5 billion, with some sources closer to $10 billion, nearly equal to Zaire's entire national debt. His Badolite palace, dubbed the Versailles in the jungle, boasted marble halls, Italian chandeliers, an Olympic pool, and even an air-conditioned hangar for the private jet. The sheer extravagance left visiting Europeans stunned. Meanwhile, teachers went unpaid, hospitals had no medicine, and ordinary Zairians spoke of le mal zairois, the Zairian sickness, a system where everyone, from ministers down to customs officers, stole to survive because a top man had already normalized plunder. Then, Nigeria in the 1970s oil boom. Petrodollars poured in, over $25 billion in a single decade. But instead of schools and infrastructure, much of it vanished into white elephant projects and Swiss bank accounts. General Sani Abacha later raised corruption to new heights in the 1990s, siphoning off an estimated $2 to $5 billion stashed in London, Luxembourg, and beyond. To put that in perspective, the money stolen under Abacha could have funded every primary school in Nigeria for a generation. Fast forward to Mozambique and the Tuna Bonds scandal. Between 2013 and 2014, Credit Suisse and Russian banks arranged more than $2 billion in secret loans, supposedly to buy fishing boats and naval security gear. The supplier? Privinvest, a Lebanese-owned shipbuilder. What arrived were rusting vessels, a few overpriced raiders, and a tidal wave of debt. Mozambique's finance minister, Manuel Chang, personally pocketed at least $5 to $7 million in bribes. U.S. courts got involved because the money trail ran through New York banks. Ordinary Mozambicans are still paying that debt today. Kenya gives us another textbook case. The Goldenberg scandal of the 1990s. The scheme was simple. The government paid exporters huge subsidies for gold and diamond exports, except Kenya had almost no gold. The businessman Kamlesh Patni and allies inside State House faked the exports and cashed in. The cost, at least 10% of Kenya's GDP evaporated. Roads went unbuilt, hospitals unrepaired, and while a handful of men lived like kings in Nairobi. Teachers went unpaid. Inflation soared. The shilling collapsed while Patni was chauffeured around the capital in a fleet of Mercedes. Then there's Angola. Jose Eduardo dos Santos ruled for nearly 4 decades. Oil revenues flowed, hundreds of billions of dollars, yet much of it never reached the people. His daughter, Isabel dos Santos, became one of Africa's richest women with a fortune of over $3 billion, built on sweetheart deals and offshore transfers. While Luanda elites threw champagne parties, ordinary Angolans queued for bread. And here's the point. It's not just these five. Zambia defaulted on its Eurobond debt after billions vanished into stalled projects. Ghana's state assets were offloaded for pennies during structural adjustment. Liberia's timber and diamonds fed the bank accounts of warlords and officials alike. Cote d'Ivoire under Houphouët-Boigny, he built the world's largest basilica modeled on St. Peter's in Rome, costing upwards of $200 to $300 million in the late 1980s while villages lacked running water. Different countries, same story. A small circle of gatekeepers signed the deals, took the cuts, and let their people hold in the bill. Think of the scale of this theft. Mobutu's estimated fortune of $5 to $10 billion could have paved over 60,000 kilometers of all-weather roads across Africa, enough to connect every major capital city in West Africa twice over. The $3 to $5 billion that Abacha siphoned away could have built 150 modern hospitals, each serving 500,000 people, or provided clean water systems for every rural community in Nigeria. Mozambique's $2 billion Tuna Bonds scandal, that was nearly the country's entire health budget for 5 years. Instead of rusting boats, it could have built classrooms for every child, stocked hospitals with medicine, and electrified thousands of villages. Kenya's Goldenberg scam drained over 600 million, enough to double the number of primary schools nationwide at the time, giving an entire generation of children a different start in life. And Angola's missing oil billions, the Luanda leaks showed Isabel dos Santos alone sat on $3 billion. That single fortune could have financed a national power grid, ended the daily blackouts that still plague Angolan households. The sums stolen, wasted, or mismanaged across these cases easily exceeded $20 to $30 billion, enough to have fundamentally changed hundreds of millions of lives on the continent. Instead, they financed private jets, villas in the Riviera, and offshore accounts. This is the real tragedy. Let's forget the West for a moment. The opportunity cost is staggering. The money wasn't merely lost, it was stolen from the future of millions. It wasn't just money that vanished. It was roads that were never built, hospitals that were never opened, children who never learned. This is a true bill of Africa's old guard. So, this is part one of the looted continent. The theft was real, the debts were massive, and the people still pay the price today. In our next episode, we go deeper into one country's fight to claw back what was stolen. Ghana launched Operation Recover All Loot, a bold attempt to chase stolen money across borders and bring corrupt officials to account. That's where we're headed next. Will it work? Or will it be another exercise in smoke and mirrors, futility dressed up as reform, or just another excuse for those meant to guard us to steal with impunity yet again? If you found this episode eye-opening, hit subscribe, give it a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to pass it on. The more it's shared, the more people get to hear these stories. Keep sharing, and I'll see you the next time.